Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. To all of you, a very warm welcome here to the Heads of Agencies event. My name is Uli Bobinger. I'm working as a space journalist in Germany for almost 20 years now, and it's a privilege, again, to be your moderator in this event for the next 90 minutes. First of all, I'd like to introduce the representatives of the space agencies to you, and I hope I'm allowed to do this in an alphabetical order. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from the United States, the NASA Administrator, Mr. Charles Bolden. The Director General of the European Space Agency, Monsieur Jean-Jacques Dordain. The Deputy Director of the Coordination Committee for International Cooperation of the China National Space Administration, Mr. Yafeng Hu. The President of the Canadian Space Agency, Mr. Steve McLean. Representing the Federal Space Agency of Russia, Deputy Director Mr. Sergei Savelyev. The President of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, Mr. Keiichi Tachikawa. And last but not least, representing the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, the ISRO Council Vice Chairman, Mr. Parivakam Veerakavan. Good to have you here, gentlemen. Thank you for coming. We are all happy to meet you. We are happy to meet each other here in Naples. And as representative of our host country of IAC, Mr. Enrico Saggese, President of the Italian Space Agency, will now briefly welcome you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Bobinger. Good morning, first of all, to all the head of agencies and to all of you. I think it's really an important event, the one we are now welcoming. I just wanted to add a few things in the welcome. First of all, we have all learned why we have the conference in Naples, not only because of the sea and the sun, but also because the industry in Naples is 1/4 of all the aerospace industry in Italy. We have 10,000 people working in space here in the Naples region, and we have a turnover of 2 billion euros per year. So it's the proper place in Italy to stay within this event. The second major point is the number of students we have. We have 5 universities in Campania region. We have 23 courses in engineering and related matters, and we have many masters in the postgraduate education in the region. So it was quite easy to get 500 students in the Congress, which is one of the major achievements because all people who have white hair as mine are looking ahead to have people as a young graduate who can take their role with the same enthusiasm and the same willingness to pursue the space activities. ASI then has been quite happy to organize and to help organizing this event. We are quite longly been involved in space. We have feasted the first 50 years of cooperation with NASA, and we got at the event Lori Garber, the Vice Administrator of NASA, in an event that celebrated a few months ago these 50 years of cooperation with NASA. And I think to go to the matter of the discussion, there are many activities in what ASI does and what ASI does also within the European Space Agency, which are for us quite important. First of all, the access to space. What will be the future of access to space? Should we go in an institutional situation as we are going in Europe? Should we in Europe follow the exercise which has been done in the States for a commercial launch, leading to a completely new market? How we can foster this transition? And you know that since Italy has developed the Vega, this kind of discussion is for us quite important. The second point is the International Space Station. Everybody of us is quite happy to have realized the International Space Station. We have to use it. We have to use it for the benefit of mankind. We have to make much more many experiments as we have done till today. It is quite important for us to use it. And then to use it, we should know how long should it last. So I imagine that one question that we'll put to our friends is how long does it last? How should we commit till 2020, till 2028? What could be the future of the manned exploration in low Earth orbit? I imagine that there are also nice answers to be asked to our Chinese friends about their International Space Station and how it is going on. ASI is a bit cooperating with them because we provide some ground station to track the Chinese space station from Malindi in Kenya. So I think that these are questions of great relevance, but also other aspects on the Earth observation are important too. So disaster monitoring is becoming more and more important. We are investing as Italy very much in synthetic aperture radar, in optical observation, in hyperspectral observation. So disaster monitoring, but also the knowledge of the atmosphere, the knowledge of the event which happens in the atmosphere and the global warming, all of the questions that are coming out to know our environment. And we know, we are not journalists, so we know that they are not resolved with the data we have today, and we cannot forecast the future. I think these questions are also important. So this head of agencies meeting, from my point of view, is quite a unique and important aspect of this conference. Once a year, we have the possibility to listen directly from the head of agencies what are their plans. So at least we will hear from them a little bit before Space News will publish them, or even we could know something that Space News is not publishing. So at least this is my first hope to get some news, some hints on the future. So from this point of view, I'm quite happy to listen, and I hope that the conduction of Mr. Bobinger will help us to understand what is our future in space, and what is the return that space can give all citizens in terms of benefits, but also in terms of knowledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, President Sancheze, for this wonderful introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, our guests have a lot of interesting stories to tell. We all know that, but to give you all the chance to join in our discussion, and maybe you know this format already from the last years, we agreed to start in the first round with pretty short key statements from the agency's heads on the headlines of the past 12 months and maybe on ongoing projects. We have scheduled maximum 4 minutes per person. I know this is tough, but we want to save time for our discussion and for you also. So 4 minutes each, and this bell, and you all know this bloody tool, I'm sure, this bell will help me remind you if you're running out of time. So if I have to do so, just I apologize in advance now, but we want to save the time also for your questions, because after a second round where we discuss here on the podium some topics of current interest, we want to go not too late in the third round, where you get the chance to join in our discussion. We have a couple of co-moderators here in the hall, so when you give them a sign, then you can receive a sheet of paper from them. You can write your question, and we collect them as soon as possible. You can start right now, and my colleagues will collect your questions and bring some of them back here to the podium. Maybe we won't be able to answer all questions, but this is your chance to raise your personal questions to these distinguished gentlemen. Now, could I please ask my colleagues to raise their hands? Just look around who's now raising a hand. My colleagues, the co-moderators with the sheets of paper, I think here and there, so you can find them and write down your questions. You can start right now. So thank you very much for this. And now we start with our round of statements, 4 minutes each. We'll begin with a gentleman who some weeks ago sent us the first voice message ever received from another planet. I'm happy that he returned from Mars to be with us here today. The floor is yours, Mr. Bowden.
Thank you very much, and thanks to all of you for allowing us to spend this time with you. In summary, let me try to say that this past year for NASA and the United States has been an extraordinary year. All the way from probably not our most recent, but our most notorious, the successful landing of Curiosity, the Curiosity rover on Mars, which was an absolutely incredible feat. And what is most important about it, and hopefully all of you understand that it was an international venture. Granted, it was an American spacecraft, but there are now at least 5 new nations on Mars as a result of collaboration with us. Everyone from the Spanish, the British, the Russians, on and on and on. And we're very happy to say that. And the Canadians, Steve even mentioned, so that's absolutely correct. We began, or we will begin next Sunday, officially the utilization of commercial capability to get cargo to and from the International Space Station. We had a spectacular demonstration from SpaceX this past May, and so next week, next Sunday, the 7th, they will fly their first commercial launch carrying cargo to and from International Space Station. We also had success in terms of understanding our own Earth environment with the successful launch of the radiation storm belt probes just a little bit more than a month ago, and also our New Star mission. So I can tell you our budget is relatively stable. We're like every other nation in the world today, almost every other nation. We are facing fiscal crises, but we are trying to look at our budget and trying to work with our government to keep it as stable as possible so that we don't lose the momentum that we currently have. We're making progress on a heavy lift launch vehicle and a multi-purpose crew vehicle that will enable us to accomplish challenges that President Obama has laid out for NASA, getting humans to an asteroid in 2025 or so, and hopefully getting the human species to Mars in the 2030s. And I know last year people laughed at me. This year there are still some who are laughing at me, but they laugh a little less loudly now that Curiosity is on Mars and doing its job. Thanks to all of us here, or almost all of us, the International Space Station remains the centerpiece of our human spaceflight activities, at least through 2020. Very important to us. At the same time, as I mentioned, we're working very hard to facilitate the success of a new commercial space sector that will be open to all people, but will find a way for us all to get to space less expensively than is currently possible. We recently let agreements with 3 American companies, SpaceX, Boeing, and Sierra Nevada, to help design and develop a capability to carry humans to and from low Earth orbit. Boeing and SpaceX have capsules that are somewhat customary, and then Sierra Nevada is the company that has a winged vehicle that looks very similar to a miniature space shuttle. So we're really excited about that competition that's coming. Our science missions are going strong. I already mentioned Curiosity getting through its 7 minutes of terror, but we're even trying to move more science onto the International Space Station in collaboration with many of you. One of the things about which I'm proudest, and it's one of the smallest things we're doing, is thanks to our Japanese partners and HTV3, we were able to take something called iServe, which is an International Space Station version of a program that is called Severe that that enables us to reach out to third world countries, undeveloped countries, and make them a part of the family of spacefaring nations by looking at crop planning, water resources management, disaster management, and the like. And we're very proud of that. We continue the development of the James Webb Space Telescope, and we right now are on schedule for a launch in 2018 that we think will further revolutionize our understanding of our universe much more than the Hubble Space Telescope has done, and I think we all know what great advances Hubble has helped us to make. We have spacecraft on the way to Jupiter, to Pluto. We have spacecraft orbiting the Moon, Mercury, Mars, Saturn. We're doing great things. And in aeronautics, where our investments are driving us to new technologies that, again, working with aviation industries around the world, aviation regulatory agencies around the world will help make aircraft travel safer for humans. And then finally, I think we're really enjoying the partnership with American and international industry as we move forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Bolden. I'd like to hand over to Sergei Savelyev. The Russian Space Agency had to face 12 pretty, let's say, intensive months since IAC in Cape Town. I'm curious how you can put this into 4 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. Space industry development reflects the common human desire to discover the nature and broaden the knowledge horizons. Nowadays, this aspiration is becoming more and more applied than ever before. The main feature of its prospective development is the integrity and tight binding with economy issues. Ongoing international cooperation is a very important condition for space technologies' comprehensive use in an attempt to meet significant challenges that the society faces. However, no large-scale socio-economic or scientific problem can be solved efficiently without space resources application. We witness a worldwide tendency of the growth of new regional space-oriented institutions. Many countries try to conduct space programs on their own. However, despite a wide list of participants, there are only a few countries which are able to achieve such financial and resource-consuming aims for their own account. Obviously, the results of space activity affect the economy not only of the countries deeply involved, but also all other economies, including those staying at the beginning of this path. Such activity is a powerful impulse to the economic development of any country. Russian space policy includes such significant issues as stable domestic economic growth by maintenance of the operational orbital constellation, development and production of launches and ground-based infrastructure to fulfill constantly growing social economic requirements, ensuring the leading position of the Russian Federation in the field of manned space flights, further improvement and accumulation of scientific knowledge of the Earth, outer space and celestial bodies, development of scientific and technological basis for future large-scale space projects of the universe and the solar system exploration, improvement of international cooperation based on mutual interests in the exploration of outer space and fundamental research. The tasks mentioned above are related to the growth of the communication, remote sensing, and global satellite navigation GLONASS constellations. Within the framework of fundamental space research programs, Russian scientists fruitfully collaborate with International Scientific Society worldwide. In July of the last year, the Astrophysical Space Observatory Spectre R radiostron was led to its orbit as a result of such beneficial cooperation. It provides for astrophysical observations in the radio spectrum. We highlight successful joint experiments with the radio telescopes in the USA, the Netherlands, and Germany. We hope that in a future perspective, application of the telescope would provide domestic and foreign scientists with a powerful tool for comprehensive experiments and scientific research. In conjunction with foreign partners, we lead the development of new integrated scientific systems. In particular, in a few years, we plan to launch Spectrum M, Spectrum UF, and Spectrum RG space observatories. In cooperation with ESA and Germany, we work on microgravity experiments and research under the Photon M project. Roscosmos expects that the Photon M satellite would be launched in the near future. The Federal Space Agency of Russia maintains tight relations with our colleagues from the EU, Russia, and France worked together on the project Soyuz in Guinea Space Center, which was successfully carried out with 2 launches of the Soyuz ST last year. The next 2 launches are planned till the end of this year. Our specialists work on an ambitious project on the development of a new class of launchers and boosters that would use more eco-friendly fuel components available. We have carefully examined emergency situations and launch accidents during the last years and found out that they were caused by both human mistakes and malfunction. As a result, the Federal Space Agency of Russia has developed a complex of management and technical measures to control and improve design and production quality and reliability of spacecraft. The new Vostochny launch site is under construction and is expected to become a new scientific, technological, and economical center for the future manned spacecraft development and the solar system exploration. The International Space Station Russia has proper capability to engage with various commercial orders for space equipment design, satellite communications and launch services, broadcasting, global navigation, Earth remote sensing, etc. National space activities and national cooperation issues always remain the subject of the governmental supervision. We expect foreign partners to respect our policy in the area of exploration and use of outer space for peaceful purposes. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. I know this is hellish because lot of things going on in your agencies, and I believe, Monsieur Dodin, you could use your 4 minutes just to tell the ESA headlines from the last 2 weeks, maybe. ATV has undocked from the ISS, Ariane 5 again, successful launch with 2 satellites. So I shortened these topics for you already, and we are looking forward to hear your status report now.
Thank you. So I assume that I have 4 minutes per member state, meaning that I have 20 member states. Okay, but I shall do my best in 4 minutes. So just to say, and I would like to start by that ESA has never been as successful as today, and especially by the number of its member states, because since last year we got 2 new member states, Romania, who became an operational member state at the beginning of the year, and I have just signed the accession agreement of Poland, who will be an operational member state for the Council at Ministerial in November. So we are now at 20, and this is certainly a sign of success. If ESA was not successful, I am not so sure that the number of member states would grow. But we are also successful by the number of missions that we have delivered, and you are right, in the last year. And I would like to recall some of them, and because we are delivering a lot of science and more science of the universe and the solar system with Herschel and Planck, and we shall launch next year Gaia. Just to say that Charlie has spoken of James Webb. I would not like to give the impression that James Webb is only a NASA mission. It's a NASA-ESA mission where ESA is contributing significantly to James Webb, and we are ready to for the launch in 2018. For the Earth science, we have 3 Earth explorers in operations with Goche, SMOS, and Cryosat, and we are ready for the launch of Swarm, the 4th one, and after that there will be ADM Aeolus, just to say that we are launching 1 satellite per year dedicated to Earth science and its environment. We are using more and more the space station, and we had a fantastic symposium in Berlin last May demonstrating the value of the space station and the value of the utilization of the space station. We are also delivering a lot of services. Monsieur Savelyev mentioned the launch of the 2 first Galileo satellites just after the Congress last year, and the 2 next one are already on board. I have a picture of the 2 next Galileo satellites, which are on board Soyuz for a launch on the 12th of October. And then we shall launch the Galileo satellites in series, and I am committed to the European Commission to deliver 18 satellites by the end of 2014. We are also delivering a lot of meteorology satellites, obviously together with EUMETSAT, but in the last 3 months We have launched successfully the MSG3, which is the third of the geostationary satellite for meteorology, and then METOP-B, which is the second satellite in polar orbit. We are delivering GMES services also, which were based on Envisat, and Envisat, we has concluded its lifetime, but after 10 years, because I am always said that Envisat has been stopped, but imagine that you are living 2 times your nominal life. I am not so sure that you would be in good shape, so I think that Envisat is a fantastic success. But we shall launch ProbaV beginning of next year to contribute to the GMES services, and then the first Sentinel is ready for launch also next year. We are also delivering a lot of competitiveness, as you said, 51 successful launch of Ariane 5, obviously made by Arianespace, but obviously ESA is not totally absent of this success. We have launched Soyuz already 2 times from French Guiana, and the next launch is on the 12th of October, and we have launched Vega, our last but not least launcher on the 13th of February. Meaning that today there is not anymore one single European satellite which cannot be launched from French Guiana, which is good news. We have also delivered a lot of telecommunications after the success of HILAS in partnership with Avanti. We have delivered the new platform Alphabus to Inmarsat for launch also next year, and the following one with AG1 will be launched in 2014. The ATV produced on a yearly basis. We have just undocked, as you said, ATV3, but ATV4 is already in Kourou for a launch beginning of next year. And I would like to end by saying that we are also preparing the future. On board Vega, there were 7 CubeSat for students. And Vega, speaking of Vega, Vega is not only a new launcher, it's also a new generation of engineers. And that it's also good news for the future of ESA. So to say that ESA has been successful in the last year, but I am sure that with all the new generation, we shall be even more successful in the following years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monsieur Dordain. ATV3 has been undocking the ISS some days ago, as we heard. It has been loaded with waste by the Japanese astronaut Akihiko Hoshide, and ATV's brother-in-law Konoturi from Japan already departed from ISS some weeks earlier. So seems to be also a busy year for the Japanese space community. And I now pass the floor to Mr. Tachikawa.
Thank you. First, I would like to provide you with a summary of last year's developments on behalf of JAXA. The Global Change Observation Mission First Water, namely GCOM-W1, Japanese name is Shizuku, was successfully launched this May. As an indication of the progress, I would like to start by showing you a picture. Please take a look at the slide on the screen, please.
If we can have the slide, so Mr. Tachikawa prepared.
In September, as a result of our analysis on the data observed by Shizuku, we found the extent of the sea ice in the Arctic Ocean has become the smallest in observation history. This is a valuable record and indicates the possible influence of global warming. We have kept the observation and the related data analysis, observing water cycles and understanding their mechanisms are significant keys to solving the global warming issues of the Earth, which is, after all, the water planet. As regards Earth observation, the observation data from the greenhouse gases observing satellite named GOSAT, which was launched in 2009, has improved the precision of the fluxes estimation of CO2, and in October 2011, for the first time in the world, JAXA quantitatively demonstrated the effectiveness of satellite data application to the existing greenhouse gases observation data. JAXA intends to continue its utmost efforts to contribute towards finding the solution to these difficult challenges which affect all mankind. Next slide. JAXA astronaut Akihiko Hoshide, Golden Told, started his long-term stay in the International Space Station this July as a fourth Japanese astronaut. At this very moment, he is working in cooperation with the astronauts from the United States and the Russian Federation. After that, we have successfully launched HTV-3, namely Konotori, and accomplished its mission to supply the cargo to the ISS. This follows the success of two former missions. The ISS project is a symbol of international cooperation, and I am convinced that continuous contribution to the ISS project will create a solid basis for our next exploration mission. In addition, technical reviews on the future utilization of the ISS after 2020, as well as conceptual reviews of the manned space exploration through international cooperation, which are aimed at expanding mankind's sphere of activities in space beyond the ISS project, have been actively discussed among nations. We aim to contribute to such discussion by providing an opportunity to learn about the latest situation on manned space exploration from each nation. JAXA will therefore both host the International Space Exploration Symposium in Tokyo at the end of this month. We will actively be involved in and contribute towards these collaborative activities for the future mankind. Now, I would like to briefly introduce our future project. JAXA will launch the Advanced Land Observing Satellite 2 next year, the following on mission from the AROS that completed its operation last year. In the same year, HTB-4 named Konotori 4, number 4, and the first Epsilon launch vehicle, JAXA's new solid propellant rocket, are also scheduled to be launched. We will brace ourselves and strive towards making these important missions successful. Lastly, I would like to promote space cooperation in the Asia-Pacific region. Slide 3 shows we have been holding annual meetings, APR South, Asia-Pacific Regional Space Agency Forum. Last year, we had a meeting in Singapore, inviting 280 participants from 28 countries. And this year, we are pleased to inform you that the next APR South 19 meeting will be held from 11th to 14th December this year in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tachikawa. We turn over to Canada, which is celebrating a jubilee on September 28, 1962, so nearly right on the day 50 years ago. Canada became the third country to design and build its own satellite when Alouette 1 has been launched and placed in orbit. We are looking forward to hear now what your last year's headlines has been. Steve McLean.
Yeah, I hear an echo with a wireless mic, so I thought I'd step up to the mic. Yeah, we are really, really proud of Alouette 1, 1962, September 29. I think what Alouette 1 did is it gave Canada the domestic confidence to continue with the satellite communications program we had, and the reason for that, it was a complex satellite using transistors for complex control for the first time. So not only did it give us that confidence, I think it gave us international credibility to pursue other avenues in space and really launch Canada to be an innovation-driven spacefaring nation. Now, 50 years later, we're very proud of our most recent delivery, and I'd like to remind Jean-Jacques and Charlie that the James Webb is not just a NASA-ESA mission. It's also a NASA-ESA Canadian Space Agency, or CSA, mission. We just delivered in August the Fine Guidance Sensor that is responsible for supporting the precision pointing that will enable James Webb to take those amazing pictures that it's going to take into the depths of the universe. Now, Canada was also pleased to be part of NASA's mission Curiosity this fall as well, as it gave us the second chance to plant our little maple leaf on the surface of Mars, and we delivered the alpha X-ray spectrometer that has passed its aliveness test and is doing very, very well, and I think we can expect exciting things there. The Canadian Space Agency is also contracting McDonnell Detweiler Associates for the OSIRIS-REx mission. We have a laser on board that will be supporting the rendezvous and landing on that exciting mission that will bring samples back from OSIRIS-REx. And of course, on December 19th, Colonel Chris Hadfield is getting ready and will launch on his third voyage in space, this time on the Soyuz, and he will become the second Canadian astronaut to have a long-duration mission, and of course, for the last 10 weeks of that mission, he will command the International Space Station, and I believe, and I know, that all Canadians will be engaged while he is up there every day. Also, at the Heads of Agencies meeting that we hosted in Quebec City, the Government of Canada announced a decision to extend our continuation on the International Space Station to the year 2020, and that was confirmed in our budget in 2012. And I think that this announcement confirms that space is important to the Government of Canada. You'll also see that in our industry review that has been just launched. It's called the Aerospace and Space Review. That is under the leadership of a man who I respect, David Emerson, who is a former minister, actually a former boss of mine because he was a former minister over the space agency. So along with our space industry counterparts, we are actively contributing to the review, which will explore how government, industry, and other stakeholders can address the key issues facing the aerospace and space sectors to focus effectively on creating jobs and promoting economic growth across the country. We'll do that by driving innovation, opening market access, fostering technology and capacity development, and monitoring the procurement and supplier development. So this report goes to our government in December, and I believe it's well timed because in Canada, just over a year later, in 14-15, we balance our federal budget, and we're expecting good things from that. Now, as you know, Canada is a recognized leader in the design, optimization, and operational use of synthetic aperture radar. We are continuing with the construction of RadarSat Constellation, and this will be dedicated to serve government operations and interests, especially those related to the main priorities of the government, which are safety, sovereignty, security, environmental monitoring, coastal surveillance, mapping, sustainable development, disaster management, and, of course, the relief activities associated with that. This constellation will extend the global service that we get from RadarSat 1 and RadarSat 2 right now and split it to government, scientific, and commercial users around the world. Now, back to the International Space Station. By our extension into the space station till 2020, we plan to use the space station for science. We also plan to use the space station for a test bed. One example of that, of the science experiments, is CSA is partnering with leading Canadian researchers to accelerate the development of state-of-art medical technologies and applications that will be tested on the station to rapidly diagnose the health of astronauts. Now, this little instrument is not quite a tricorder like you have on Star Trek, but it's getting there. Now, these technologies really do have the potential of how patients are going to be diagnosed in space and how they're going to be diagnosed on the surface of the Earth. And what I like about that is the Canadian medical community is fully engaged in what we're doing in space. And then lastly, in terms of supporting the industrial technical missions, in Canada, we will be focusing, using the space station as a test bed on in-orbit servicing. So you will see a series of tests that we do that kind of prepare the way for in-orbit servicing because it's a niche area that Canada has, and we strongly believe that it is a model for how we're going to work in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. McLean. And I now transfer to China, a marvelous docking maneuver we watched in this summer. Mr. Hu, you have the floor.
尊敬的主席阁下，航天各界的同仁们、女士们、先生们、朋友们，下面我代表中国航天局向大家介绍近1年来中国航天事业发展的有关情况。去年10月以来，中国航天成功地进行了21次发射。北斗导航区域系统现在已经具备了向中国及周边地区用户提供运行服务的条件。实施了中国的天宫目标飞行器和神舟8号飞船的首次空间交会对接实验，与神舟9号飞船的首次载人空间交会对接实验，开展了嫦娥2号月球探测器环绕拉格朗日 L2 点的多项拓展性实验。去年的12月，中国政府发表了2011年的中国航天白皮书，重申了中国始终为了和平目的探索和利用外层空间的宗旨原则，对未来5年的航天规划进行了阐述。外层空间是人类共同的财富，中国愿意在平等互利、和平利用、共同发展的基础上，共同加强航天国际合作的交流，推进人类航天事业的共同进步。那么，明年64届 IAC 的大会将在北京举行。我代表中国航天局陈秋发局长，诚挚地邀请主席阁下和在座的各位代表，以及各航天机构的同仁，出席明年在中国举行的第64届国际宇航联大会。谢谢。
So, Honorable President of Congress, dear colleagues from space authorities, ladies and gentlemen, friends, good afternoon. On behalf of Mr. Chen Qiufa, Director of China National Space Administration, I'd like to introduce the development of China's space industry in the past year. From October 2011 to 30 September 2012, China successfully conducted 21 launches. Beidou navigation system is now capable of providing services to clients in China and a part of its neighboring areas. The first automated space renovation and docking of Tiangong-1 space module and the Shenzhou 8 spaceship was successfully conducted, and the first manned space renovation and docking of Tiangong-1 and the Shenzhou 9 spaceship was also successfully conducted. Several extended tests were completed with Chang'e 2 lunar probe, including circling the Lagrange point L2. In December 2011, Chinese government published China's Space White Paper, China's Space Activities in 2011, reiterating China's principle of exploring and utilizing outer space for peaceful purposes, and illustrating China's development plan of the space industry for the next 5 years. In the next 5 years, China will continue to implement important space scientific and technological projects, including human spaceflight, lunar exploration, high-resolution Earth observation system, satellite navigation and positioning system, new generation launch vehicles, and develop a comprehensive plan for coordinated development of China's space technology, space applications, and space science. Ladies and gentlemen, outer space is a commonwealth of the mankind. China is willing to continue strengthening its space international exchanges and cooperation on the basis of equality and mutual benefit, peaceful utilization and common development, and to promote the development of a space industry of the mankind. Finally, on behalf of Mr. Chen Qiufa, Director of China National Space Administration, I'd like to sincerely welcome the Congress President and all the delegates present here and colleagues of various space agencies to attend the 64th IAC to be held in China, Beijing, next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hu and Mr. Interpreter. India completed its 100th space mission just some weeks ago. It's another jubilee. Congratulations. So also over there, it has been a year with heavy traffic. And I'm glad to hand over to Mr. Vera Kavan from ISRO.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mark Barbide. For ISRO, the last 1 year was very eventful. Coming to ISRO's achievement last year, on 12th October 2011, the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle precisely placed Indo-French Joint Satellite Megatropics, along with 3 other auxiliary satellites, namely 2 student satellites and a vessel sat. Megatropic satellite is a joint contribution from India and France to the global scientific community engaged in research on climate and weather systems. This was a cooperative mission. On 26th April 2012, PSLV again on its 20th successful flight precisely placed radar imaging satellite RISAT-1, India's indigenously built microwave remote sensing satellite meant for natural resources management. RISAT-1 carries C-band synthetic aperture radar payload operating in multipolarization and multi-resolution modes. This was a national mission. Coming to the third mission is the 100th mission of ISRO, starting from the first mission of our first satellite, Aryabhatta, in 1975. On September 9th, 2012, PSLV, on its 21st successful mission, placed the French Earth observation satellite Spot 6 and Japanese microsatellite Proteus in precise orbit. This was a commercial mission. And just 2 days ago, India's advanced communication satellite GSAT-10 was successfully launched by Arianespace from French Guiana on September 28th. GSAT-10 is an advanced communication satellite carrying 30 transponders in C-band, extended C-band, and Ku-band. And it also carries a GPS-aided geo-augmented navigation Gagan payload for the aviation industry. As a part of capacity building in the field of space, India hosts Center for Space Science and Technology Education in Asia and Pacific, affiliated to United Nations, and so far more than 1,100 scholars from 52 countries benefited. A meeting of India-ASEAN agencies was organized in Bangalore in June 2012 with the participation of all 10 members of countries of ASEAN. A panel discussion was also organized to discuss the possible space cooperation between ASEAN and India. And India hosted 39th Scientific Assembly of the Committee on Space Research, COSPA, with the theme Space for the Benefit of Mankind at Mysore in July 2012, with the participation of more than 3,000 scientists, researchers, and students from 75 countries. Coming to ISRO's plan for coming here, PSLV C-20, the next mission, will carry again an Indo-French joint mission called SARAL, which is carrying a Ka-band altimeter and a data collection platform. This will also carry 5 piggyback satellites from Canada, Austria, and Denmark, and this will be launched sometime in December this year. And India is having a very challenging mission in GSLV with a cryogenic stage, and this will orbit GSAT-14, a communication satellite, the first quarter of 2013. India is also gearing up for the first satellite of the Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, IRNSS, through PSLV in early 2013. And another important mission planned by India is to launch Mars Orbiter mission in November 2013 using Workhorse Launch Vehicle, PSLV. Around 9 scientific instruments are planned to accommodate in this Mars orbiter. This will be launched in November 2013. India is an active member of the Committee for Earth Observation System, CEOS, and will be hosting the plenary meeting at Bangalore in October 2012. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Verkavan. Thank you, gentlemen, for the first round. A lot of interesting topics we heard already about interesting missions. Let's come back to one mission that fascinated everybody of us, curiosity, Mr. Bolden. I think everybody was fascinated by the entry, descent, and landing procedure. You talked about the 7 minutes of terror where there was no information. Also, the photos now are fascinating, but what do you think? This landing procedure with the heat shield, the parachute, the retro-rockets, and then the sky crane, is this a sort of a technological breakthrough, maybe for future Mars missions?
We think it is. And as a matter of fact, what we would like to do, what we find essential, is that we continue to do our work in planetary science, continue to perfect the methods that we use for curiosity. I tell people all the time, the entry, descent, and landing is a perishable skill. This is a discussion that we have had among our international partners, particularly ESA, as we have discussed potential collaboration between the U.S. and the international partners in future Mars missions. We find that entry, descent, and landing is essentially hypersonic flight. So it is an area that has dual purposes for us because we one day would like to have airplanes that fly through the sky at supersonic or even hypersonic speed. So it's a critical skill for us. We've done other things in science that I think are equally important, but probably not as elaborate and catchy as curiosity and its 7 minutes of terror, though.
And it was armchair entertainment at its best with the live coverage and all the thing. And spend a good amount of money with the PR thing to emphasize the people and to get the inspiration again. But then your wallet was empty and you have to quit the ExoMars thing. Monsieur Dordain, is this a success story for ESA and its established partnerships to all spacefaring nations, that in that moment you could switch the partnership from ExoMars, from NASA to Roscosmos? It sounds so simple, like a telephone call, like, hello Jean-Jacques, this is Charlie, I cannot make you cinema tonight, and by the way, I have to quit ExoMars. And then you say, okay, I will ask Sergei. Was it such simple? Monsieur Dordain?
It takes a little bit.
Just the mic on, please. No, you don't have to do anything, I suppose.
Okay.
Okay.
No, it takes more than a phone call, I must say. Yes, it is still a difficult transition because we have worked for 3 years with NASA to make ExoMars together with NASA, and for reasons that Charlie explained to me, that NASA could not anymore come with us or as it was planned with us on ExoMars. I say that because NASA will still be on ExoMars, but not with the contribution that we were planning to get from them. And this is the reason why at this point in time we were reflecting on how could we continue ExoMars, and we had only two options. The first option was to continue ESA alone, but that was raising a significant budget problem that member states were not able to digest. The other option was to find another partner, and I must say that it was just on the wake of our successful cooperation with Russia on Soyuz in French Guiana, and we were thinking with Russia, what can we do next after Soyuz? And I must say that ExoMars came as an obvious mission for which we could cooperate. And I am grateful that because it was 1 year ago, it was at Cape Town that we were discussing at that time on how we can make ExoMars with Russia. And we are working since then. We are working hard, and we have meetings, including yesterday, to try and find a solution. I think that we have made a lot of progress. And okay, I am confident that before the end of the year, we shall have found a way to implement ExoMars with all the objectives that the member states have put on ExoMars, to implement ExoMars with our Russian partner, but also with the support of NASA. And this is what we are doing. We are still working on that. Industry, I must say, European industry has made a lot of efforts to, because it was not easy for them either. I would not like to give the impression that it was just a problem between space agencies. It was also a problem, and it is a problem for European industry, and I am grateful that European industry, together with the Russian industry, have made the effort, which will at the end make ExoMars as a very beautiful mission. As I have said many times, ExoMars, even after Curiosity, and even maybe even more today after Curiosity, ExoMars is still a unique mission. And okay, let's make ExoMars.
And is this also a good example, Monsieur Dodon, for the ongoing international cooperation? We are talking a lot about the cooperation, which is a must, everybody knows that, but also you hear a lot about a new area of competition. So where do you define the line between these both fields?
Yes, as I said many times, cooperation is difficult. It's always easier not to cooperate. That this is certainly a fact of cooperation, and we know that at ESA, because cooperating among 20 European member states is already difficult. But it's successful. As I said, ESA is very successful, and it's a demonstration that cooperation leads to success. Now, this is clear that cooperation is not the recipe for all type of activities, because as I said, cooperation is difficult, number one, meaning that cooperation is always slower than competition. I must say that during the old times of competition, United States, they've put a man on the moon in less than 10 years. So competition is always faster. Cooperation is slower, but more sustainable, that this is for sure. But maybe also cooperation is risk adverse. We are taking less risk when we are cooperating, and we are spending a lot of time with a partner to discuss risk sharing, and at the end, this is risk adverse. And the third problem of cooperation is uniformity. There is a tendency that we are all thinking the same way, and I think it's not good for even innovation. So, and this is the reason why I think that cooperation must be mixed with competition. I am a strong believer also in competition. By the way, it's what we are doing also among the member states of ESA. Our member states are cooperating, but they are also competing. Let's take the science program of ESA. ESA is offering a platform, is offering a mission, but there is a strong competition for the instruments among the scientific communities to be on board the ESA platform. Meaning that we have demonstrated also that a mixture of cooperation and competition is good, because competition is innovation, is a fight among scientists, among engineers to have the best solution. And this is where I am working with the International Space Station partners to see how we can build an exploration program which is based on cooperation on one side but competition on the other side. So let's cooperate on the big infrastructure, starting with transportation. I must say that for exploration, the trucks are not they are the important part, but they are not the part for competition. I think that the competition in exploration should be in science and in technology. So in my view, the future will be made always, and I hope so, of a good mixture between cooperation and competition. So let's go for cooperation. I have no problem with that, or not the contrary. But let's also have some competition to make sure that we have the best ideas.
Mr. Surveyor, going to Mars has a very simple reason. Why do we want to go to Mars? Because it's there. And this touches just the passion that lies in the exploration field. But is this the main reason to go for Mars, or is there also already foreseen a socio-economic benefit, or should these questions of benefit stay in the lower Earth orbit?
Thank you. Most satellites today orbiting around the Earth are used for the benefit of people. They provide us with telecoms, navigation, weather forecast, natural resources management, etc. Let me give some examples. Through the use of space, people are not tied anymore to ground networks. Satellites provide services in most remote parts of the world, in areas where ground networks are damaged or disabled through different disasters, in the sea and in the flight. By space telecoms, education and healthcare in their remote version can reach most isolated and most poor communities. I shall mention that a lot of internet traffic is going through space, and we cannot imagine now our life without internet. It's socializing information exchange and search capabilities. Global navigation satellite systems now work around the whole world 24 hours a day and all weather. These signals are used for different kinds of transportation, mapping and construction, high precision agriculture, to save and rescue people. Navigation systems are used even in banking, as precise time signals are essential to synchronize money transfers. Let's just imagine that our mobile phones, our car navigators, do not work anymore, and we have to go back to try reading maps and ask occasional passers-by for directions. And it is quite difficult for me to decide what is more unreliable. Thus, I can assume that for the need of all, we shall develop further space navigation systems, ensuring interoperability between existing GPS, GLONASS, and emerging Galileo, IRNSS, and COMPASS. As with remote sensing from space, it is used for plenty of purposes. I can just recount natural resources monitoring, ocean studies, environmental monitoring, meteorology, agriculture monitoring. We see that in more and more cases, satellite systems work in convergence. For example, in case of a disaster, remote sensing satellites can give us information on the scale of disaster, its character and possible ways to bring help to people affected. Then navigation system ensure logistics of this help. And finally, through space telecoms, we can receive in real-time mode some information vital to adjust disaster management support and reinstall links between those affected by disaster and their relatives. These are very simple and clear examples how space is actually bringing benefits and covering needs of everybody. And even pure science in space has its own impact on the population, apart from feeding our human curiosity. New technologies and materials developed for space science are then introduced on Earth for our benefit. Sun studies help us predict sunstorms and take precautions on medical side. Planetary studies will help us to understand the past and the future of our planetary system, including Earth. This is briefly what I wanted to say about how space is contributing to cover needs of all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Many examples of the benefit we have, and let's focus again on the Mars, and thank you very much for all of your questions. I would like now to add your questions into the discussion here, and I got a question from Mrs. Vladeta Smiljanovic, and it goes also to you, Mr. Savelyev. There's a direct question. Is there a plan to substitute the Phobos grant mission or to do a similar mission? Or maybe I add this now. Is this now the cooperation with an ExoMars where you substitute the failure we all unfortunately had to face?
Nowadays, as Mr. Dardan said, we are working on ExoMars mission. As for substitution of Phobos Grund, there are some plans to do it, but now I can say exactly because there is no decision yet.
Okay, we have the IAC next year, and then we ask them again. The Russian government announced, I think just 3 weeks ago, that a budget of 6,700 billion rubles, so about 60 million euros, shall be provided for the development of new space technologies. We will see what happens there. Mr. Hu, I have the impression that money doesn't seem to be the problem, and you are very enthusiastic and breathtaking and enthusiastic, dynamic process now of Chinese steps into space. Where do you see the upcoming challenges in space research for China? Also, we were talking about cooperation and competition. Where do you define the line where you want to go?
Yes. 谢谢主持人。刚才主持人提了2个问题，这个一个问题呢是中国航天面临的科学挑战，在空间研究方面可产生突破。我们认为在未来5年，中国在空间研究方面呢有很多任务要完成，那么涉及的面也比较宽，范围比较广。我们认为可能在以下有这么2个方面会产生重大的技术突破。第一个呢是进入空间的能力可能将得到进一步的提升。那么中国的新一代运载火箭长征5号首飞后，中国运载火箭近地轨道的运载能力将达到25吨，这个地球同步轨道运载能力将达到14吨。长征5号的运载火箭呢，采用的是绿色环保、无毒无污染的这个推进剂。第二个方面呢，大概有一批航天重大的科技专项呢将得到新的进展。那么中国呢将继续实施载人航天、月球探测、高分辨率对地观测系统、2代卫星导航定位系统等一系列航天的重大科技工程。那么到2015年前后，我们预计这些工程将取得重大的阶段性的成果。
So thank you for your question. And actually we have 2 questions here. So first one concerning the scientific and technological challenges and expected breakthroughs. In the next 5 years, China has various goals and tasks to accomplish in space research. Some of the breakthroughs are expected in the following 2 aspects. The first one, the further improvement on the capability of access to space. After the maiden flight of China's new generation launch vehicle, Launch 5, China's launch vehicle's low Earth orbit launch capability will be improved to 25 tons, with a geostationary satellite launch capability will be increased to 14 tons. Launch 5 launch vehicle adopts environmental friendly, non-toxic, and pollution-free propellants. Second, A number of important space scientific and technological projects will be made, and China will continue to implement important space scientific and technological projects such as human spaceflight, lunar exploration, high-resolution Earth observation system, second-generation navigation and positioning system, etc. By 2015, significant progresses are expected in these fields.
刚才主持人还谈到的第二个问题呢，涉及到空间研究和探索方面的这个合作和竞争。作为中国政府呢，始终是坚持为了和平的目的呢，探索和利用外太空间，而且呢，愿意和世界各个航天机构一起这个携手共进在平等互利、和平利用、共同发展的这样一个原则上。那么在空间技术、空间科学和空间利用等领域开展广泛的国际合作。具体的一点的讲呢，我们大概重点呢在这么样几个领域开展的国际的交流与合作。第一个方面呢是空间天文、空间物理、微重力科学、空间生命科学、深空探测等领域的科学研究。第二呢是对地观测卫星、广播通讯卫星等领域的应用合作。第三呢是载人航天工程相关的技术合作，空间科学研究与实验以及航天的测控技术合作。第四呢是卫星的商业发射服务、卫星的整形和零部件的出口、卫星的地面实验设备进出口等等。第五呢是航天领域的人员的交流和培训等等。谢谢。
Okay, second aspect is about cooperation and competition. Chinese government holds a position of exploring and utilizing outer space for peaceful purposes, and are willing to make progresses together with international space agencies, and conduct extensive international cooperation in fields of space technology, space science, space applications, based on equality and mutual benefit, peaceful utilization, and joint development, contributing to the improvement of human welfare. In specific, China's international space exchanges and cooperation will be mainly in the following fields. First, scientific research on space astronomy, space physics, microgravity science, space life science, deep space exploration, and other areas. Second, applications of Earth observation satellites and communication satellites. Third, technological cooperation in human spaceflight program, space science research and experiments, space GNC cooperation. Fourth, commercial satellite launch services, import and export of whole satellites, satellite parts and components, import and export of ground support equipment. 5, personnel exchange and training in the field of space. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I would like to, yes, please, welcome. I would like just to add one question from you again to Mr. Wu. It's just a yes or no question coming from Mr. David. Will the Chinese space station welcome international astronauts? Yes or no?
我想在未来中国的空间站是对世界开放的。
I think in the future, the China space station is open to the world.
Thank you very much. Mr. McLean, you told us about all your activities also with NASA. You're near to the United States with ESA. Chris Hadfield is going to the ISS aboard a Soyuz spacecraft. In some weeks, the Canadian Space Agency is associated to ESA, so you're in the center of cooperation, I think, when we talk about cooperation and competition. Here in this Congress, we have many delegates from countries who never will build a rocket. So is Canada the kind of a role model for those countries, nevertheless getting engaged into space?
Yeah, what I can say is that for Canada, cooperation, it's all about cooperation. And it's very important that we're successful in that area. because we can't launch. And I think there are some lessons learned with respect to how to do it. At least I have learned over the 28, 29 years I've been in this business how important that is. And I think it starts with Alouette 1. Alouette 1 was a combination of Communications Research Center, D&D, the National Research Council, and we also leveraged talent from the universities. And so in Canada, domestically, it was based on cooperation, to the point where today the Canadian Space Agency only has about 1/3 of the total budget. And yet, we have the responsibility to coordinate the mandates of the other government departments that have the rest of the budget. And that is something that is very difficult to do. I think when you do it successfully, it's sustainable, but it is difficult to do. And the way we do it is we respect the leadership mandates of each of those other government departments and then coordinate that with our own leadership mandate. And just by opening meetings with that phrase, it seems to work. Now, internationally, it's too expensive for a country like us to build the infrastructure and launch. It takes several years of a healthy budget to do that, and it's very complex to do. So in our case, what we do is we focused on basically 3 technical areas: robotics, optical engineering, and radar. And by focusing on those 3 things, we find that we're useful to different countries with respect to the work that they're doing, and you end up being able to negotiate the launch cost down a little bit because of that relationship. So it is something that has worked and served well for Canada. And I'll end by saying, it doesn't just work well. Cooperation is all about people, and it's a privilege to be able to cooperate with those that can launch. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vera Kavan, you're also on the way, as we all hear, to a Mars mission, an orbiter mission. So where do you define the challenge for your nation? Why don't you step into the Mars projects of other agencies? Why you are planning a national mission?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to say that it is not in competition or race with respect to other countries. This first mission to Mars, we are planning in the earliest opportunity available next year. It is mainly, the objective is to establish the technological capability to reach the Mars orbit. There are many technological developments which are required. So we are trying to do a 1350 kg Mars orbiter launched by our Workhorse launch vehicle PSLV, and then after 300 days of voyage, it will go to Mars orbit of 500 by 80,000. And we are planning scientific instruments to monitor the Mars atmosphere, Mars surface, and the mineralogy, etc. So it's basically establishing technological capability with a very cost-effective way. Our total estimate, including the launch vehicle, is going to be less than $90 million.
Interesting project. Thank you very much. I bring on another question from you, ladies and gentlemen, going to Mr. Tachikawa, and we're coming from Mars a little bit down to the LEO, and it's concerning ISS. It's coming from Mr. Kozumo. Mr. Tachikawa, how long the space station, in your opinion, should be operational? 2020, or how much longer?
I'm not sure.
Could we put the mic on, please?
Okay.
No. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I'm not sure exactly, but we, Japanese government, made a decision to continue by 2020. After that, we are now talking about how to do after 2020 among ISS partners. So if we will be able to find a good answers in 2 or 3 years, maybe we would like to do so same thing in Japan too.
Okay, thank you. I bring in another, or just 2 questions maybe. I put them together to Mr. Bolden. The one is anonymous, the other is from University of Sydney, Mr. Kumar. Will space companies replace the space agencies in the future? Are there any risks, or the possibilities are greater, the chances? Second question, what do you believe is the role of space agencies in a commercially driven world? What should space agencies focus on in the future?
I think there are two things that we talk about whenever you talk about space, whether it's humans, robots, or whatever. One is access. How do we get there? The second is exploration. How do we understand the origins of the universe? Is there life elsewhere? Are we alone? Industry should be providing access, and we're trying to demonstrate the feasibility of that right now. The reason that President Obama directed us to turn to industry to facilitate the success of a commercial space industry is because we all have invested money, time, lives in determining how to get to space. It will never be easy, but it is now something that reputable companies can do. That's a task that I think we should relegate to industry throughout the world. Exploration, trying to determine who we are, how we got here, are there others of us, going to Mars and other places, for the time being, is very expensive, very risky, and there are a lot of questions we do not know. And in the risk proposition, I think that's where agencies and governments should lead the way. As I told some young people earlier today, my hope is that in some time in the near future, and near is a relative term, we will have perfected the ability to explore to distant planets. And then industry can take that over while we try to explore. We go from interplanetary travel to interstellar travel. Now, I won't be around when that happens. None of us probably will. But I think all of us in this room have to believe that that's why we're here. And when that time comes, governments and agencies again will take to interstellar travel while industry and companies take over interplanetary travel. I don't see that in the very near future, but that's the progression if you want to take it that way.
Thank you, and I would like just to add, keep the mic, another question to you coming from Brent Sherwood. I think this sort of question I see every year, but I do transport it to you also every year. What progress can you describe to allow NASA to work in a collaboration with China?
What progress can be made, or what, can you just give me a little bit better?
What progress can you describe about is there any progress with the possibility of cooperation with China in space?
I think everybody is aware that presently, by law, NASA is prohibited from working bilaterally with China. That does not mean that I cannot listen to what Mr. Hu says and agree wholeheartedly with everything that he said about technology development, exploration. If you had asked me that question, our answers would probably be identical. I think if you ask most people in this room questions of the nature that we're getting, we're all dealing in the same thing. So while I don't work bilaterally with China right now, every one of my international partners here collaborates with China in one way or another. And so vicariously, I learn from the experiences that they have. There may be someday that the U.S. and China cooperate in a bilateral nature, but that is not what is happening right now. We are still both making very good progress toward very common goals in many cases. And I think that's healthy for what's going on in our world today.
Thank you. I got another question from you. Going to Monsieur Dordain, and concerning also the maybe longer life of the ISS and the shutdown of the ATV program after ATV 5. This comes from Lucas Shaw-Kroon from University of Alabama. Mr. Dordain, what option do you prefer regarding the depth of ESA to the NASA for the ISS? Either propulsion module for Orion or automatic vehicle to remove space debris? What a question.
Okay. No, but what I prefer does not matter. I must say that what I am trying to do is to have the member states taking a decision on that. And obviously, the member states, they have to take a decision that which is in agreement with NASA. Because if we have stopped the production of ATV, it's because we consider that continuing to produce an ATV to pay our share of common operation cost was not the best way to continue to pay, because it was only production activities, and that it's always better for the industrial engineering capacity to have also development activities. So NASA has accepted that we could replace kilos in orbit. And by the way, if we could replace that, it's because there will be a commercial service. So ATV is today essential for the exploitation of the space station. With the arrival of commercial services, ATV will be just one among others. And this is the reason why NASA has accepted that we could replace our the payment of our common operation cost by some hardware that we could develop in Europe that NASA could accept as a good deal for them. So we are working on that. There are several options. One of the options is the contribution of European industry to the service module of the Orion. So it's one option on which we are working, and we are working with European industry. There are other options also which are considered, and that it's one of the remaining problems that we have to solve before the Council at ministerial level. So we are working on that. And what I prefer, as I said, does not matter, because around the ESA Council table, I am the only one not to put any money on that. So this is the reason why the decisions will stay with the member states.
Thank you very much. Maybe a last question from you, going to Mr. Savelyev. Mr. Savelyev, could you tell us about nuclear propulsion development in Russia? And I have another similar question concerning using the solar power in future. So also this is a question for Congress by itself, but I'm sure you can make it within a minute.
Yes, since 2010 in Russia, our specialists and scientists have been working on the project concerning the use of nuclear power in space. So to say, the aim of this work is to build the new equipment on the base of nuclear energy to use in the prospective spacecraft for deep space exploration. And till the end of this year, our specialists have to finish the one stage of this work. We expect to have a first example of this installation of this equipment by the 2018.
Thank you. And now we're just nearly at the end. Thank you, gentlemen. I just prepared a pretty smart question for the conclusions round, but I throw it away and use one of yours again for the short round. I ask you to give me a short answer, maybe in this round, starting from Mr. Bolden. And this question comes from Edu Aymeric. Thank you for this. Addressed to all, so it's good for a concluding question and sounds simple. Is space still your dream? Mr. Bolden.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Savelyev.
Yes.
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 Mr. McLean, give me the mic, please. Is space still your dream?
Well, in the spirit of cooperation, yes, yes, yes.
我们认为是的。
There's no need for translation, I think. Mr. Mr. Ehrbar. Surprise us.
On what?
Is still space your dream?
Yes.
Okay, this is a perfect closing of our session. Thank you. Thanks to the gentleman on the podium. Thank you for all your interest. Have a nice Congress, an interesting Congress, and a good evening. Thank you. Goodbye.